What is up, everyone, and welcome to our second issue of Sibling Rival-Read, our comic book club podcast, YouTube video show, comic book club thing. I'm your host, Ben Pye. Joining me is my wonderful sister. We decided to call her Anakin.
Bumps.
Ooh. And as is custom for Anna, she has already hurt herself. Welcome to our next episode. Last week, we talked about The Amazing Spider-Man Coming Home. This week, we are working on Robin Wars. This is our first kind of collected edition book. Which means there are a lot of authors and artists that worked on this book altogether.
The storyline altogether, because the book
Right.
is kind of separate. We read the collection.
Right.
Sorry.
So the book was
Sorry.
worked on by multiple
Yes.
writers and artists, right?
Yeah, you were right.
Yeah.
Like,
So I'm not going to go through and list off all of them. I have it on the screen right here for you guys to see. I will also put in the description down below a full list of all of the writers and artists because Anna wants to make my life as difficult as humanly possible with the books that she's choosing. That kind of gets us there. Sorry that this episode is coming up a little bit late. Our next issue will still be live on Monday the 3rd. No.
I don't know.
The 4th?
Monday. Next
Monday.
Monday at 8.
Yes.
That's all I know.
Well, this Monday.
This
This Monday,
Monday.
not next Monday.
Sorry.
This Monday, the 4th of January at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anna, give me a summary of this book. Which, real quick, the book that I chose was, 115 pages? This book, 300 pages.
Okay. Anyway.
Longer isn't always better, guys.
We realized that. But I mostly picked this one, I wanted Ben to read it, and Robin is one of my favorite superheroes to follow storyline through. So, as a synopsis of what the comic book is, which kind of jumps around a bit because you have one-off issues of Teen Titans, of Red Hood and the Outlaws thrown in, and Gotham Academy. So it kind of jumps around a little bit more in terms of the storyline. So I'm just going to give an overview of the Robin War release.
And I think it's important to say, this isn't going to be, this is the first one that we're doing that is a collection from different comic book runs. This definitely won't be the last. We've got a lot of books on our list, like Spider-Verse. We have House of M on our list. We have Flashpoint on our list. We have a lot of books on our list that we're going to be doing that do collect stories from multiple comic series. And I think it's important to note that one of the things that I do kind of like about doing these collected stories like we're doing right now is that it gives people a taste of the different comics. So if they read through this and they're like, oh, Red Hood's really cool, you got a taste of Red Hood in this, you can go check out the Red Hood comic kind of thing.
For sure. And I mean, we'll get to that, but I enjoyed it for the Teen Titans, seeing the Teen Titans, not necessarily the Teen Titans issue being super random. But so the Robin War overall story arc starts with the We Are Robin movement, which actually for me, up until reading this comic, I didn't know any of the characters from the We Are Robin series. So that was a fun little introduction, and you're immediately thrown into one of the characters killing a robber and a cop by mistake. Well, I mean, by mistake for him, and yeah. And you're thrown into I mean, if you've read comics before, you're thrown into immediately knowing Court of Owls. I think it's the next panel where you see the conference room and you have the Court of Owls members of Gotham in there. If you don't know, then you kind of get a taste of who the antagonist is going to be throughout it. And from there becomes a manhunt for any kid dressed in red or any of the Robin colors. And so you're introduced to Duke and the main characters within the We Are Robin series. And from there, because there's such a hullabaloo about all the Robins, then you see each of the original Robins kind of come into play to help save the day and save all the kids from getting arrested, who are kind of arrested without any trial just because of the colors. It's very dystopian in that kind of way. And when you see all of the original Robins kind of come into play, then Dick Grayson, who comes in from the Spiral comic kind of universe. So you hear a lot of them talking about that they can't see the face, and that's because of the spiral, which doesn't actually get explained in this comic really well, sadly. Like the face changing nanobite mask. But so then he decides that he's going to train all of them to be Robin. If they're going to dress as Robin, then they need to be prepared. And so you go into these really fun and really cool one-on-one Robin sessions on training the kind of like street kids or just average kids into being a type of a hero. And I'm like very much like narrowing down the synopsis. And so then from the one-on-ones, you find out that all of them except for Dick Grayson gets captured by Gotham PD, and Grayson meets up with the current Robin, who is actually
you can do it.
I know, I can't think of it. I'm so bad.
Say what you were saying again.
The current Batman, who's actually like a robot-esque
of Commissioner Gordon.
Oh my God. I got it right when you said it, so it kind of didn't seem like I got it, but I did get it. Okay, of Commissioner Gordon, who's been kind of on the fence with how these...
Comic book expert right here.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm so bad with names, regardless if I read them or if they're human beings. But anyway, and so Grayson goes to the new Batman's kind of hideout or home, just apartment. And we've already seen Gordon kind of struggle with how the Robins are captured, legitimately putting the birds in cages.
Hilarious.
Okay, I mean, it was kind of funny. And so from there, they partner up to kind of figure out what the true cause and true nature of capturing all the Robins are, and they figure out that Court of Owls is into it, and the Robins in the meantime are like pitted against each other, and there's this awesome scene where Red Hood and Red Robin have to help get all the other Robins free, and Damian is the only one who catches on, and so this really gorgeous acrobatic nod to Dick Grayson's Robin as the escape plan. And once all of the Robins escape, that's when you truly see the Court of Owls, if you hadn't read Court of Owls previously, come into play with the kind of like zombie-esque people who cannot be killed. And you hear one of the We Are Robin kids kind of freaking out and reciting the poem and nursery rhyme that gives you the heebie-jeebies.
Does give you the heebie-jeebies.
And so in this escape and battle, everyone eventually ends up at the Court of Owls kind of stronghold, where you see Damian had run away to kind of figure everything out on his own in true Damian fashion, and comes back fighting with the Robins and making it seem as if they have been he has been turned to the Court of Owls. In the meantime, the only character who's missing from this entire like end of comic battle sequence is Grayson, who is the one who got everybody together, and my favorite. Not in this one, but my overall. And you see him kind of think based off of like the film, the video and all of that surveillance tapes of Damien fighting with the Robins, that Damien got turned. And so you kind of see him resign and vow to be the Gray Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a huge, very dystopia. There's the whole weird I am not Robin type of a through line. And that's how it ends, with Grayson saying, I am not Robin.
Yeah.
And this was a very like compact synopsis, given it's 300 pages, and there's those one-off issues of the other comics.
It was an interesting book, to say the least, in my opinion. But tell me a little bit, why did you pick this book?
So, and overall, the reason why I wanted you to read it was mostly because I enjoyed, to a degree, given that like I was not a huge fan of the after death for Dick Grayson, and so I didn't truly enjoy the Grayson comics, where he is a member of he's a secret agent member of Spiral. So I didn't enjoy the majority of that story arc. Obviously there were like one-offs, so I was like, oh, I like this one, but and I felt like him coming into this particular story arc explained it, explained his character evolution in a really good way. Whether I like it or I agree with it for the reasons why I like Dick Grayson, I don't think are evident in this comic. It totally makes sense for the comic story arc, given that like there is no true Bruce Wayne as Batman, and Dick Grayson has had the mantle before, but always had his own like innocent flair, and then he dies and is kind of reborn as almost a new Batman, and so he truly kind of goes into that role of being a Batman, being secretive, being not trusting of the other Robins, not very forthcoming. And so because of that, I thought it was a good read just for New 52, because this is New 52.
Right.
So yeah, that was the majority of the reason. And I mean, realistically, I knew you'd like the backstory with Red Robin and Red Hood.
Explain to the people who might have read this, where is Batman right now?
I mean, he's still in Gotham. It's just he doesn't remember anything. He was, and to be completely honest, I only read a little bit. Like, I read this first before ever reading the New 52 Batman, and was like, what? And I had to very much backtrack and go, what the heck? So it's definitely not the best comic for somebody who hasn't read comics before. In terms of an introduction to characters, it's not the strongest, especially since it's not the best representation of characters' true essence. Like Nightwing's essence is not a true detective or anything like that, like Bruce Wayne, but it really did tie into the New 52 storyline in a well enough way that I wanted to get your input on.
I gotcha. So this is kind of one of those books where it wasn't necessarily chosen as a perfect, like, hey, this is a good jumping on point for these characters, but a story for us to really sit down and critique. And we are going to be having kind of a mix of those both throughout this series. But I have to say, like, the story was definitely interesting. I really wouldn't call it like a huge favorite of mine. I do always love when um, a lot of the Bat family gets back together and is working on a common goal. Because one of the things about Batman and Robin is that the Robins are all incredibly different uh, kinds of heroes. And I think when they all come together, it's really interesting to see how different they are and how dynamic they are in that. As a kind of a background, Dick Grayson or Nightwing was the original Robin. Um, the first kind of orphan that um, Batman picked up as an apprentice, as a sidekick.
This is Tim Drake on
I
the
know it
screen.
is.
Okay.
It's Tim Drake and Jason Todd. Shortly after that, Jason Todd, after Robin leaves to become Nightwing, Jason Todd is taken on as the next apprentice to Batman, who is during a mission with Batman, gets kidnapped by the Joker, beaten to death by the Joker.
I don't think he's kidnapped. I think he
Well, he goes
and falls into a trap,
Right.
but he doesn't get kidnapped.
Well, okay.
He could have avoided his death if he listened to Batman. That's the only reason why I'm like, he didn't
No,
get
no,
kidnapped.
you're right. And he ends up getting killed. He then is resurrected by Ra's al Ghul in a Lazarus pit and goes absolutely insane. Especially since shortly thereafter, Batman picks up yet another Robin, in Tim Drake.
But not by Batman's choice, by just Tim Drake being
Right.
awesome.
So with Jason Todd, Jason Todd was also an orphan. I mean, they're all orphans, I guess. But Jason Todd was caught trying to steal the. Yeah, get there.
Said all of
Um,
it.
Jason Todd was caught trying to steal the wheels off of the Batmobile.
Yes.
And then Tim Drake is the most detective-like Robin of them all, and deduced Batman's secret identity and kind of forced his way into becoming a Robin.
He tried at first by deducing who Nightwing was, Nightwing being the original Robin, and he really wanted to convince Grayson to go back to being Robin. And then he was kind of like, nah, you're good enough. Like, go. And then you meet Damian.
And then you
way
meet
later.
Damian way later, who is the offspring of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul, because Bruce has turned down Ra's so much at this point that he's like, fine, if I can't have you, I'll make a clone of you with my daughter. And she has this little 8-year-old murder child.
Demon Wong.
Who is like the most brutal of all the Robins, for sure. And that's saying something, because
Considering Jason Todd.
considering Jason Todd was pretty brutal.
Like, in a nutshell, the Robins go the acrobat as Dick Grayson, the marksman as Jason Todd, the detective or true detective or whatever in Tim Drake, and then the true son or the real son as Damian Wayne. I was like,
Yeah.
sentence structure
Right.
recap. But I love those little that's
Yeah,
why I wanted to-
absolutely. There's definitely a lot of really neat differences between them all as well. And I think the dynamic that I find really, really awesome throughout this entire story is the dynamic between Jason Todd and Tim Drake.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of feelings of betrayal from Jason Todd, and the fact that Batman did not murder the Joker right after the Joker murdered Tim Drake, or I'm sorry, Jason Todd. So it was, really, really neat to see that these two really started having a heart-to-heart, and kind of seeing like, dude, it really hurt seeing another person as Robin after I died. So it was interesting seeing these two people that really, I mean, the hatred was really one-sided, but
Hatred, yes. There was some like,
the
I mean,
animosity was two-sided.
yeah.
But like
It was kind
Jason
of like the
Todd,
sibling rivalry in terms for Tim Drake, not for Jason Todd
right?
necessarily.
So it was really interesting uh, to kind of see how they did have this heart to heart and how their relationship and teamwork like really grew in this. Because in any other team up with them,
They just bicker.
they just bicker or they don't work together at all. And Red Hood works with like Damien, and Tim Drake works with Grayson. So it was really cool to finally see these two Robins working together.
And I mean, throughout the comic, all of the kind of Robin dynamic of the original Robins has been flipped on its head, because you see that Dick Grayson has now taken the mentality and without the mantle necessarily of Batman, and so Red Hood and Red Robin then end up taking on the dynamic of Dick Grayson's Robin, and then you have to see Damien struggle to not be his little butt of a self and kind of mature in a very different way, which is also why I like this one, just because it's so different from what you normally read them as character-wise.
There's a lot of payoff for longtime Batman and Robin fans here.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a lot of fan service, but
Sorry.
the fact that you get to see all these characters mature, and you get to see like in a lot of comics, Dick Grayson calls Bruce out on the way he is Batman. He's like, you don't talk to us, you don't give us the full story ever. Like this is what the hell are you doing? Because how are we supposed to help you if you can't give us all the information?
Which is totally why I was not the biggest fan of the New 52 like Grayson evolution, but it totally made sense. So I'm like struggling with how I felt about it.
Yeah.
Grayson is my favorite. Nightwing is my favorite superhero in general. So I was like, I understand, and it's like a good progression. I just don't like it.
Right.
So
it's like that part of like a romantic comedy where it's like you hit the part where one of the characters is just being a dick,
yeah, and you're
not
like,
really realizing it, and then the last like 20 minutes of the movie are that person's redemption arc. And I think this sets up a good potential redemption arc
with the
for
continuation.
Dick Grayson.
I agree.
Yeah. And I always love the Court of Owls as an enemy here.
They're
this
creepy.
they are definitely creepy, but it's
like an elite cultist group.
Well, it's like the enemy that's everywhere and nowhere.
Big brother.
Kind of. It's like what would probably be the closest analog in Marvel? I guess it could be Hydra, in a sense, not maybe as big, but thinking of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Hydra is this really underground cult that has infiltrated all parts of society.
And it manipulates everything to their means without you knowing that they're there or that they have influenced it.
And I always find those to be the most fascinating villains, for that very reason. It's not like a great villain because there's no like really big face to him. Like obviously there's what's his bucket?
Who recruits Grayson like every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're interesting because it's an undying thing that has been around for as long as Gotham has been around. And I always like the dichotomy of let's finally give you know, the bat, one of its natural enemies, the owl.
Or the Talon.
Or the Talon. Yeah. um, plus the masks are just so cool.
They are cool masks. I mean, they're creepy, which serves its purpose.
Absolutely. So that's another thing that I really like about this. And one of the things you're going to find throughout a lot of this series is that I like slightly more obscure villains. Like I really like Morlun as a Spider-Man villain. I really like Ra's al Ghul is one of my favorite Batman villains, if not my favorite Batman villain.
I like heroes turn villains as the villains, which you don't find, I feel like,
You don't-
frequently in the Marvel and the DC universe as being head kind of villain, like the main villains or very forefront kind of characters. But I mean, like even
You kind of get that a little
Henry
bit
with
with
Spider-Man.
yeah.
I like Henry Hart.
What? Henry?
Not Henry.
Are you talking about
Henry?
Green Goblin? Harry?
Harry. Damn it. I'm really bad with names tonight. I look like a fool. It's okay.
It's okay.
Like,
And I mean, you kind of get a little bit of that with Gordon here. Like he's
yeah,
not.
but Gordon's not really a villain. He's more, I mean, he's definitely not helping the situation and is more,
You see him more as an ally to Batman in other Batman things that you might read. This is one of the first things that I've read where
he follows too blindly with government in terms of this specific story arc,
It
which
seems
makes
very-
him seem like a villain, but he's not. I do hate his Spider-Man because it is very Nightfall Spider-Man with
Spider-Man,
not Spider-Man. Sorry,
his Batman,
Batman with
Jean-Luc.
Jean-Luc, and I hated that too.
Yeah,
I mean, I liked that story arc in terms of it's just an iconic, which that one was way
yeah.
too
We'll,
long.
we'll have to talk about.
So long.
We'll have to talk about Iron Man Batman. I mean, the Iron Man Batman.
That I mean,
You know, another
Indeed.
time. But yeah, I think it was an interesting story. I liked the character development in it. I've read a lot of Batman. I've read a lot of Nightwing. I've read a lot of Red Hood and the Outlaws. I've read a lot of Teen Titans. I've read a lot of
this universe.
Batman and this universe in general. I was still lost at parts.
Oh, for sure.
So like if you read this and you're thinking, oh my God, I have no idea what's going on. There were times I was reading this where I was also like, huh?
I mean, I've read this one 3 times in like its complete collection. And I still have to go back because I'm like, I have no idea why this is happening in this way, especially with the whole Batman losing his memory, with a lot to do with Grayson, because at a certain point I kind of stopped following the Grayson comics because I wasn't enjoying them as much. And so Grayson coming back and not everyone freaking out that he's not dead type of a thing threw me off. So I had to go back and reread a couple of the Grayson comics. It's definitely not a good comic to jump into as a first time reader. And I really apologize for that because I wasn't thinking in that way when I chose it. So yeah, it was a good read for anybody interested in We Are Robin. Because
Yeah.
I had absolutely no interest in reading the We Are Robins, and I did really like Duke's character.
Yeah.
I know. I know you didn't. I mean,
You know, what does Batman need? More Robins. Oh, yeah, okay.
well, that's why I didn't ever want to read the We Are Robins. I was like, there's no fun in reading 1,000,002 Robins.
Yeah, this definitely didn't get me hooked on that. Like, it didn't make me think, oh yeah, I do want to do that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's definitely something to point out. Let's talk about art. Like obviously, as per usual, I'll usually be the one leading story conversation. But let's talk about art. What were some standout things in this series for you?
Given that they cross different comics, the art itself was inconsistent in ours just because we read the complete collection. And so there was a very jarring difference, especially with the Gotham Academy, which is up on the screen. Which, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the Gotham Academy art. It kind of, for lack of a better word, it's a little childish, like childlike, very line heavy and graphic and geometric, which has a cool and different take. Just
it reminds
not
me
my
of like the
taste.
old like Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated comics.
Yeah, for a second, looking at the panels now, I'm like, oh no, never mind. From the standpoint of like thinking back to it, I was like, it kind of reminds me of Superman versus Batman.
Yeah.
But it doesn't at the same time. Like that one was way more clip art. This one isn't very clip art. It's just very line heavy, with very little shading. So it's very flat. Very.
You're talking about the Frank Miller Batman?
The one that yeah. But this one I'm saying is very flat. The other one was clip arty. This one is just line heavy and
it is line heavy. I do.
There's no shading. But I mean, within the actual We Are Robin and the Robin War, not We Are Robin, the Robin War issues that follow the main storyline, being obviously it's consistent because it's the same artists, I believe, throughout those ones. I didn't find there anything like super special about it. I did like how they orchestrated the panels for movement. But there was nothing super groundbreaking or very eye-catching in terms of like the Spider-Man one and the same movement elements being like Spider-Man is very acrobatic but haphazardly. And then typically when you're reading any Robin comic, you expect some aerial instances. And I just think that the Spider-Man one last week that we read and critiqued did that so much better that, I mean, reading this one was almost like, but they could have done like so much more.
Right.
So for that one, for that reason alone, it's kind of a letdown in terms of I liked the movement, but it just didn't meet expectations after last week. And then aside from that, it's kind of, I mean, comic book. There's nothing really super special about it. As for my favorite panel, it would be, I think it's actually the next page.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, actually, it's the page after that.
Oh my God.
I mean, this one captures it too, but at the very, very top panel where you see him flying between the cages, and it actually illustrates the movement that he's going from cage to cage with his silhouette. I really enjoyed. Also, mostly because that was like a very heavy nod to Dick Grayson as Robin and as Nightwing that you totally lose in this series. So, I mean, that nostalgia factor was also my favorite. But the interaction between the original Robins with Damian and Jason Todd and Tim Drake was beautifully done. And just the cage movements there are really nice. And I like the white background and the faded silhouettes because
it's very high contrast. And
it is to illustrate the movement, which, I mean, again, because of last week, I'm like, okay, but you didn't need to do that. You could have done like punching out of the grid lines, which I feel like I would have done so much more. But yeah, that one's my favorite.
I mean,
panel.
it's something interesting that you can look at, because if we think about how John Romita Jr. would have done it, it would have been like this. The whole cages would have been a full page art, and you would have seen multiple Red Robins moving up.
And that would have been so nice. So nice.
Which,
and I mean, with this one, it did continuously have me go, catch it, because they're all kids that have never done this before. So I'm like, dear God.
But you know, it is an important thing that to see, because you're gonna have different feelings about the art. Move into frame better.
Sorry, I was leaning on the table.
I know.
Okay.
You gotta sit up straight and be in frame, man. So yeah, I like this panel, and this panel right here shows what more of the art of Robin War is throughout the whole thing. And I didn't hate it. I do agree.
I would
There's
have
like
never recommended it if I
there-
hated it. I couldn't get past the art if I didn't like the art.
yeah, it's I enjoy it. I with this kind of style, I would have liked to see more large panels.
Yeah.
I think just looking at this page, the second panel from the bottom where you see Red Hood turn to look at the Talon agent and all of the other Court of Owls enemies. Like I love that facial expression through the mask, and I will always be one of those people that looks at that and is like, oh man, I love when an artist can show strong emotion through a mask. And you know, a lot of especially like DC heroes, they don't have masks that cover their whole face.
Yeah.
It's not like Spider-Man or Red Hood or
Red Hood is DC, but yeah.
well, no, I know, but from either, it's not like Spider-Man or Deadpool or, you know, a lot of these other heroes that Black Panther,
Yeah.
that have their whole entire face covered, and they still are able to show such strong emotion through the art. And I would have liked to have seen more art like the art showing Red Hood down here.
I will say though, even with that, as great as the facial is, it's all one line weight,
It is.
which bothers me. Because I think you get more
I
emotion.
understand what that means now.
I think you get more emotion and movement in it with varying line weights, and it's all very one note. And so, yeah. So
It's nothing to be like, oh man, if you like looking at art, read Robin War.
yeah, for sure.
Because it's not that. And I think for me, my favorite panels were a lot of these like these little full page art panels where they have a line from the book.
Which would have been like the inside cover for independent issues if
Right.
you read it that way. I'm
Um,
imagining.
yeah, I would imagine that as well. Looking back, I really like this one. Like I did not
like the
like
art in the
I did
actual
not like
issue.
the art in the issue, but this I believe this is an alternate cover art.
I love alternate covers. Like I love
And-
following comic book artists on Instagram and just seeing their variant covers. It's one of my favorite things.
And again, this is one where it's like I love the high contrast between the yellow background and the Gotham University or Gotham Academy uniform with her ripping the patch off to reveal
The Robin logo.
the Robin logo. Like this is top tier art right here.
And please note that they have like a traditional brush for shading, and he's complimenting that page. Traditional brushes go a long way.
Yes.
It's still digital art, it just has a traditional texture.
Yeah, and I enjoy
Like
seeing that as well. But I do enjoy the digital art. And again, I really I loved these full panel things with or these full page.
This one just gets you in the gut.
It really does, because like Jason Todd was so hated when they introduced him. Like fans voted to kill Jason Todd.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's rough, buddy.
And okay, good nod to Avatar. For me, Jason Todd was definitely never my favorite Robin unless he was interacting with the others, because he was very one-note angry and angsty. So I never read or wanted to read the Outlaw series, which, given the one Outlaw issue that you do read in here, it was extremely interesting because you see a very compassionate side, even without Red Hood physically there. You get the tone that he heavily cares about Joker's
About his
daughter,
people.
Joker.
Yes. I agree. And
So
like a lot of these panels, especially early on in the books, it's panels with the Robins. And it's good art. Like and the lettering like is incredibly basic, but God, there's a lot of power behind the lettering and the art on these, and I'm blown back by it. Like I love taking it, and it hits me in the gut, you know.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, you have anything to add about the art here?
I feel like I said everything that I wanted to really point out, and it's just so silly. I do really like the water splatter effects.
Oh, yeah.
You and I were talking about that when we were pulling up our panels.
Uh-huh.
And I mean,
I
again though,
love the
this isn't a Robin War comic. This is just an
This is Red
interluded
Hood
story.
and the Outlaws.
And so I'm not critiquing that just because it's not the story arc, but I mean that was gorgeous. The lava glowing and everything like that was absolutely stunning.
The melting effect that they use and like just how it.
I love the splashings. I
Yeah.
love the splashes.
It's very powerful. It's nice. This is one I could see kind of. I could see this without the lava, like Red Hood looking off in the distance and having like a wallpaper engine background for this, and just be like, yeah, this looks great.
Yeah.
But with like animated rain falling and yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, overall, just the actual Robin War comics was very one note, kind of
Yeah.
predictable.
It was a very predictable
flat.
story.
Story art, not story.
Well, no. I know. It was also kind of meh on the story for me.
I know, but I wanted to get your take, and I'm totally gonna lose this month.
Well, but that's okay because that's the point. Is
Oh man.
I'm probably gonna choose something you don't like too.
I know, but what was just out of the gate, I was between this one and Flashpoint, which we will do Flashpoint.
We will at some point, yeah.
But I'm like, damn it, I gotta be the one to pick Flashpoint. Which I mean, I'm the one who's read it already. You haven't.
Yeah. So let's talk about rating.
Sorry. Let's talk about rating.
Yep. So story for me, I'll go with the story first.
Okay, cool.
It's a weak story. It really is a weak story for me, and I'm not a big fan. Like I love Batman, I love the Robins, but this one did fall flat for me.
I understand.
I like what they were trying to do. I liked the villains, and I liked some of the growth of the characters in this.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone just starting out, it's not the easiest one to read.
No, I know.
And I think I would give this like a 6 out of 10.
Okay. So I mean, I was thinking between a 5 and a 6.
I might actually go more towards 5, just because I think I am gonna go with 5. It's gonna sound like I said that because you just said that.
No, then I'll go with 6. Because I mean, the reality, I have different reasons for my rating. My rating is based off of the reason that I wanted you to read it, which is the character development and the progression, and especially it in the New 52 universe, which is the only reason that I'm like giving it a 6 instead of a 5, is that given the universe that it's in, not and as a comic book reader, obviously not as a new comic book starter, because this isn't that
comic
book
book
for
new.
anybody. It was intriguing in a different way for the Robin dynamic, which you don't get to see. It wasn't my favorite, definitely not, but I valued that it was different.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it a 6 instead of a 5, just because I like different.
Yeah.
Whether I liked it or not is a different story, but I like different, and they did different in a unique way.
Yeah. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Okay.
And again, we'll focus solely on the art for We Are Robin.
So I feel
Or
honest.
not We Are Robin.
Robin War. I feel like this is even kind of a high score for me personally. Like, I want to say 4, but I'm honestly leaning more towards a 3. There was absolutely nothing showstopper about it. It was pretty basic. The line weights did not vary. It was very iconic, like the black shadow type of a shading. Otherwise, there was no shading, I don't believe. So
Yeah,
I mean,
there was no
maybe
define-
I'll give it
definitely
to a
no.
4 because it's kind of predictable. It's very one note vanilla, so it's not bad. It's just So I'll give it a 5. 4. Sorry, I'll give it a 4. I was between a 3 and a 4. I'll give it a 4.
All right. There were some really powerful scenes in all of this for me. The big ones being like this beginning scene here, and
The beginning scene was very much like a grabber because you felt
definitely
so bad,
was.
and I hated that kid died. That kid died,
Yeah. And
and nobody knew it until the very, very, very end.
so like there were some really good scenes that did a really good job of conveying a lot of emotion and really like hitting you in the gut. I think the weak story just really crippled this book in general. And like you can only do so much with art
Yeah.
to make a book better. And I don't even think that this book was really able to do that. It had a couple of great grabbers, but
Yeah.
I think it started strong and got weaker and weaker the more time went on.
Yeah, and I
this
mean,
one.
to speak to the art really being able to carry a story to some degree,
Yep.
if the story is not that great, then you need to have showstopper art, and
Yep.
this wasn't showstopper art.
Right. So I think I would give art here a 5 as well.
I give it a 4.
I know.
So there's no as well.
No, but
Oh,
the
low,
story
sorry.
was 5,
As I see.
and
I see.
my art is also
I'm
5.
sorry.
So that makes my overall rating also 5.
My overall rating would
Because you
be a
rated
5.
Yeah.
Would be a 5.
So
I rated a 4 and a 6, so it would be a 5.
yeah, not a strong start for you, Anna.
I didn't,
Not
but
a
I
strong
didn't
start.
pick it for a strong start. I didn't think strategic. I knew you wouldn't read this comic unless we were reading it for this, essentially.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So
I mean,
I wanted to get your take on it. Did that do well for me? No.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Oh man.
Um,
Which means that Pokemon's gotta be great, and I didn't technically pick that. Technically, Ben picked that, but it has to be my pick, so it's my score. Like, it better be great.
but that's not our next book.
Nope. Our next book is your choice.
Yeah, our next book is my choice. And I chose something because when Anna and I started kicking around the idea that we were going to start this series again, I wanted to read through the Umbrella Academy books because the Netflix first season had just come out. So I chose Umbrella Academy for my next book. So that is going to be what we are talking about on Monday.
Yes.
So hopefully we can kind of enjoy that together. And
I still haven't watched the first season. I'll try to finish the first season before we film on Monday.
how much more do you have of it?
I haven't started it, but it's only like 5 episodes, right?
Yeah, they're like okay.
But like an hour. That's a day's worth of binge watching.
You're right.
It's totally possible.
You're right. Okay. So that being said, please leave a comment down below. Let us know what your favorite part of Robin War was, or let us know what your least favorite part of it was.
If you agree or disagree with our ratings and why.
Yeah. And please hit that like button. It really helps out a lot to get this in front of as many people as possible. Tell your friends about us, things like that. And be sure to follow me on Twitter or any other social media. You can find me. It's Ben Pie, ITS Ben Pie. And
I'm only on Instagram still. So Anna_Riddick for my personal account, which is mostly my dog, or for my art account, which is A Riddick Designs. A Riddick.
So until next time, keep your poll list nice and full, and we'll see you next time.
Woo! Reading.
Woo!
Reading. I couldn't think of anything fast enough. Shut up.
Okay.
But we were at Christmas hats. Okay.
We're going out. My God. Oh my God.
I couldn't think of anything fast enough.